so sad, Rosanna. All I wanna tell you is you never ever ever have to compromise, Rosanna. All right. Sweet.
Sarah, do you want to leave this sheet down or do you want to take it?
You know, I'm gonna grab a music stand just because I can't get there. Pop it up on the music.
You sound great.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, there we go. Hey, everybody. I just wanted to mention we've probably got about 10 more minutes. We're going to have folks get seated, and then we'll get started. But for now, thank you very much for being here. Hello? All right. Okay. I just want to start by saying welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Looks like most folks that are going to grab a seat are seated. So a couple of housekeeping things. Just we're going to do an official program with a specific order of events. We're aiming for about an hour, but we'll see how that goes. Certainly get up if you need to hit the restroom. There's an outside patio area as well. I would also recommend everyone just take in a deep breath, which is what I'm going to do. Thanks, Rick. There are soda, other refreshments are provided, as well as snacks. Feel free to grab drinks and food from the bar. That is for purchase as well. So, I think you all know why we're here. We are gathered here today to honor a son, a brother, an uncle, a partner, a cousin, a nephew, a third-generation drummer, a travel aficionado, a regional history expert, a pilot, an avid reader and writer, and an all-around first-class, unwavering friend. Richard Allen Reece III, who was born on January 28, 1976, and who we tragically lost from complications related to stomach cancer on April 23rd of this year, just 3 short weeks ago. Rich had been diagnosed with stomach cancer last year, and its rapid progression was due to a genetic condition called Lynch syndrome, which I will actually talk more about later. At this time, if you're ready, I'd like to call up Rich's aunt, MG, and we'll be hearing a song all the way from Norway, I believe. Sweden. I should have had someone proofread this first. I mean, regionally, I was close. So by Rich's niece, Margot, who performed the song. Hey, MG.
All right. Well, he did most of my introduction for me. Margot is Rich's eldest niece. She's 24 and she lives in Sweden, and she is studying music right now and hopes to work for the Church of Sweden when she completes. She, after hearing about Rich's death, she wanted to contribute to this service. So she sang this song. We have a song that she sang, which is in Swedish. In your programs, there is a translation of the words of the song by her stepmom, who translated the Swedish into English for us. I hope you enjoy the passion and the love in the song.
Blott en dag, ett ögonblick i sänder. Vilken tröst för den som kommer på att ju vilar i min faders händer. Skulle jag som barn väl ängslas stå, han som bär för mig är faders där vila och behag. Själv han är mig alla dagar nära, för var särskild tid med särskild nåd. Varje dags bekymmer vill han bära, han som heter både kraft och råd. Morgondagens omsorg får jag spara, om en oviss min vandringsstig. Som din dag så skall din kraft och vara, detta löfte gav han mig. Hjälp mig då att vila tryggt och stilla, blott vid denna löfte Herre kär. Ej min tro och ej den tröst förspilla, som i ordet mig förvara där. Hjälp mig Herre att vad helst mig händer, tagga ur din trogna faders hand. Blott en dag, ett ögonblick i sänder, tills jag nått det goda land.
William's my nephew, great nephew, and he's my backup today because as many times as I've read this, I haven't made it through yet. So he's my backup today. Appreciate it. I have a message also from Margot's father, Mike, and Mike was married to Gina for 10 years, and he wrote a message about Richard's death. He and Richard were pretty good friends. This loss is almost impossible to comprehend. I always saw Richard as symbolizing potential. It's hard with that. Okay, it's dark up here. When I first met him, he was barely out of his teens. But what was immediately obvious was that he had a maturity far beyond his years. Indeed, he always seemed to me, to us, as being the personification of youth and hope for what the future might hold. The future will be okay, we said, because it will be in Richard's hands. We wish for him long happiness with his partner Katie, the love of his life, and all seemed to be set fair until the unspeakable tragedy beset them. Richard was a gentleman and the model of diplomacy, but he was never afraid to speak his mind. A charming, clear-headed outspokenness inherited partly from his father, Rick, and to a degree under the influence of one of his foremost cultural inspirers, Frank Zappa. Richard was a human dynamo and a marvelous organizer of air tickets and travel itineraries. Everybody's laughing because you've probably experienced that. And he was ever so generous with his time and energy that he would ferry Gina and Margot and I around the state on our visits to Oregon was the least of it. When his sister Gina died, though full of grief, he took it upon himself to fly Margot home to London. On another occasion, he flew to Stockholm, collected his 14-year-old niece, flew her back to Portland, and then 10 days later, selflessly boarded on yet another plane to return her to Sweden, and then back to Portland. I found myself imagining how heartbroken his sister Gina would have been by the circumstances surrounding Richard's death. I was married to Gina for more than a decade. I know how much he meant to her. It's impossible to exaggerate how much he cared about his well-being, and I can say with certainty that had she been alive this past year, she would have been there in Portland joining forces with Katie. But here we are. I like to think that Richard and Gina, their mother Carol, their grandmother Jo, are all somehow now reunited in heaven, and that Richard has found release from his pain there in the arms of the Almighty. The idea of a world without Richard seems impossible, doesn't it? The pain will continue for those loved ones he's left behind. There may be consolation on reflecting on the many qualities of this remarkable man. Each of us has our memories to cherish. Rest in peace, dear Richard. Love from Stockholm, Mike, Margot, Audrey, and Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. That was beautiful. Grief, I've learned, is just love. It's all the love that you want to give but cannot. All of that unspent love gathers up in the corner of your eyes, the lump in your throat, and in that hollow part of your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go. Next, we're going to hear a song selection from some of Rich's closest family and friends. It's a song that Rich loved. Peg. Musical selection, so there's some options here. If you guys are ready, come on up.
Katie was nice enough to share Rich's best of 2025 playlist from his Apple Music, and this song was #1, and it surprised no one. He and I have listened to the song hundreds of times, and we both sang it in karaoke hundreds of times, and it'll always make me think of him. I seen your picture, your name in lights above it. This is your big debut. It's like a dream come true. And when you smile for the camera, I know they're gonna love it. Hey, I like your pin shot. I keep it with your letter, done up in blueprint blue. It sure looks good on you. And when you smile for the your favorite foreign movie? I like your big shot. I keep it with your letter. Done up in blueprint blue. It sure looks good on you. And when you smile for the camera, I know I love you better. Peggy will come back to you. Peggy will come back to you. Now the shutter falls, you see it all. It's your favorite foreign movie. It will come back to you. Peggy will come back to you. Now the shutter falls, you see it all. It's your favorite foreign movie. It will come back to you. Peggy will come back to you. Now the shutter falls, you see it all. It's your favorite foreign movie. It will come back to you. Peggy will come back to you. Now the shutter falls, you see it all. It's your favorite foreign movie.
So at this point, we'd like for Rich's youngest relatives, if you'd like to come up and share some memories, please come on up.
First one I'm going to tell about is when I bashed my uncle's head into a fire hydrant when I was 1 or 2. I can't remember. I gave him a permanent concussion and made it so I couldn't fly anymore. And then the second one, he made me hooked on The Simpsons. Oh.
Okay, my name is Killian, and I'm Uncle Ricky's absolute favorite nephew. He got me a guitar for my birthday. He was always trying to get me to practice, even though I didn't want to. But he was always trying to get me to practice with him downstairs at Papa's house. He made the greatest ginger snap cookies ever. They were so good. And the last time we talked, he He was trying to teach me how to do the giggity, the giggity 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 thing from Family Guy that Quagmire does. He's the only one that can do it. So, yeah.
My name is Henry. I'm Uncle Ricky's real favorite nephew. My favorite memory of Uncle Ricky was going with him to drum shops in Oregon. One time he even got me and my brother's gift cards for $50 there for Christmas. He loved going on and on about the history of different ride cymbals and snare drums. He even showed me a few beats while we were there. When he used to visit us in DC, he always made the best gooey butter cake. Those are my favorite memories.
Hi, my name's Annie, and I'm Uncle Ricky's youngest niece. My favorite memory with Uncle Ricky was when I was sitting in the basement of Papa's house playing my trombone when I decided to quit because I couldn't play my audition music, so I saw no point. I was so frustrated I had started crying, but then Uncle Ricky started talking to me. He had asked what I was upset about, and I told him for some reason I just couldn't play the music. And then I decided to quit. After I told him what was going on, he had me promise him I wouldn't quit. He then walked me through the music and helped me figure it out, even though he knew very little about trombone. Without Uncle Ricky talking me out of quitting, I would have never found my passion for music, and now I'll have the honor of saying that I'll always be able to remember him when I'm playing and performing.
I'm gonna mess this stand up for whoever's using it. And I agree, MG, the lighting is interesting up here. It's if you're trying to read, there's multiple colors. But yeah, I'm gonna do my best. I think it's what we're all doing. I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling like this world is a different and less vibrant place without Rich in it. Although he remains forever in our thoughts and memories, it still doesn't feel real or make sense. Rich was the friend I would have actually asked to help with like proper grammar and phrasing as I was writing the statement. Rich had a lot of friends. He even had several best friends, but there was only one Rich. I'm proud to say I was one of those best friends. My name is Joe Talik. I met Rich in 1991 in what we called at the time band camp at Charles A. Sprague High School in South Salem, Oregon. Rich was a year ahead of me and was very influential in introducing me to the other guys in what I eventually joined YAA, Euthanasia, which resulted in lifelong friendships with all those band members. Anyone who knew Rich was aware that he was principled, he had convictions, and he believed in certain things about people in the world. He always used to say, we all got sold a bill of goods. And in some ways, I mean, he wasn't too far off the mark. But despite his quick wit and at times direct approach in conversation, yeah, he didn't really mince words. But I do believe he always knew there was good in the world. I mean, Rich was proof there was good in the world. And Rich loved Bob's. If you guys remember the burger chain, those cheeseburgers were something else. And just randomly, yeah, other stuff Rich loved. The Simpsons, I think, came up. And then actually last night, people were talking about Seinfeld. Yeah, Rich was an expert on many different things. We all have vivid memories of Rich. I remember one time we were at my house on Seeger Lane in Salem. This would have been, I don't know, early 90s. And by the way, Rich would have remembered the exact date, the time of day, the weather, what people were wearing, if there was a song on the radio, like, what part of the song. Anyway, Rich noticed a copy of Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, and asked if I had read it. I said, yeah, and he jumped up and shouted, "Closet genius." I had read it, but let's be clear, it was completely over my head. I didn't recognize the implications and implicated warnings of the dangers of sacrificing individual freedoms and autonomy for the sake of technological advancement, social stability, and manufactured happiness. Until many years later, I still don't think I really get it. Full disclosure, I got that summary about the book from AI Overview online. So in case anyone's wondering how things started and how they're going, that's where we're at as far as technology. But I do remember thinking, hey, this guy might be all right. Like, I think we can get along. Rich lived 10 lifetimes in his short tenure among us. From music to drumming to his knowledge of state and local government. He could be connecting the dots between urban sprawl, land use planning, while also somehow reminiscing about the former Oregon Governor Tom McCall, and his brainchild, the Vortex Festival in 1970, which I'm from Oregon, I'd never heard of that, but apparently, according to Rich, these are his words, it was a ploy to get all the hippies from downtown so they wouldn't riot to protest the war. And apparently it worked. It was like a 3-day. So, if you were lucky enough to know Rich, then it meant you were constantly learning something new thanks to his love of history, literature, and the human condition. Rich also spent pivotal years in Eugene, Oregon, attending college. Speaking of getting extremely high, I think I mentioned Rich was a pilot. He was a connoisseur of all things aviation. I never had the pleasure of flying with Rich at the yoke, but in all likelihood, we probably did end up airborne a couple times in the Mercmobile. That whale of a Mercury. And there were some amazing vehicles outside Ewald Street during our high school years. Panel wagons, too. I actually saw one on the road the other day, and I thought of you, Rick. Rich also had a deep knowledge of marketing and business, undoubtedly passed down from decades of expertise garnered from his beloved father, Papa Reece, as we still like to call him, to this day, if you don't mind. Rich became adept in many different fields, from working at Sears, several years at AAA, to the Portland Tribune, Zupans, Guitar Center, notably a Guitar Center for a time, working with several other euthanasia alum. Later, he worked at Travel Portland. He made lifelong friends at each new place along the way. At one point, I became aware of a particular phenomenon Rich seemed to have invented. We called it the Friend in Town job quit. Iconic. So for anyone who knew Rich, he loved his friends dearly. He could have just called out sick, right? Like, hey, I'll be in next Monday or whatever. But if we're being honest, he probably wasn't that into the job anyway, but he, no, if friends were in town, that's it. Friend in town, job quit. I need to take a moment to mention Katie Van Heest. Apparently I got my steps too. Rich's longtime partner, they met in the summer of 2009, and she was such a support to Rich all those years. Rich was lucky to have you in his life. And especially this past year with navigating his initial devastating but seemingly manageable at the time diagnosis, the immunotherapy treatments, later the chemo treatments, the last-minute emergency room trips to the Franz Clinic, the sleepless nights, attempting to help Rich to feel a little more comfortable. As well as frequent updates and, providing on Caring Bridge and like social media. The love and support that you showed Rich and your unwavering dedication is to be commended. Not to mention your support of his family too. Oh, that's way better with the light. All right. So I could spend another couple hours talking about Rich's family and how amazing you all are. But I do need to mention his father, Rick Reece. Rick and Rich were really close. Rick took after his father a lot. It was fun to see them interact, and Rick continues to be a positive musical influence on all of Rich's friends. I remember and appreciate the multiple Tower of Power concerts. We even saw Steely Dan, I believe Michael McDonald opened for him. Ann was in the band too. Yeah, it was a great show. So we called it our continuing music education. And I know David Garibaldi, the drummer for Tower of Power, has since retired. But count me in if you ever want to go check out another one of their shows. Now I'm actually reminded of a time we saw Tower of Power in Portland. And after the show, we were hanging around. So we were hanging out after the show and hoping to, see the bands. And me not having any idea of what I was doing, pulled out my passport to have the longtime bassist, who sadly is no longer with us, Rocco Prestia, sign his autograph in it. Yeah, and he looked at me like, whatever you say, dude. I mean, I had no idea I was like invalidating my passport. And to be fair, it was probably expired. I wasn't really doing a lot of international travel at that point, but still, it was a little bit embarrassing. I remember Rich laughing though. That was funny, and I still have his autograph, so that's cool. Speaking of music, Rich would have been annoyed if I didn't mention a few of his favorites. Jeff Porcaro, drummer for Toto, just all things Steely Dan. And of course, David Garibaldi, Tower of Power, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, Led Zeppelin, The Police, lots of Zappa. The list goes on. Steve Gadd, Zigaboo Modaliste of the Meters. By the way, talk about being in the pocket. That was a term I actually learned from Rich. So it's when you're a drummer and you're in the pocket, you're right where you need to be on the beat. There's a feel to it, and it's kind of hard to pin down, but you know when you're in the pocket. Rich also played drums in many different bands over the years. Euthanasia, of course, where we ended up playing some pep rallies, which was a lot of fun. He was in the Tom Waters band in Eugene, played with the Nudicles, and the early stuff, both with Nathan Jr. and Ryan, Tiny Danza Thomas. I remember actually sitting in for Rich. I think he was traveling somewhere, not Norway, probably Sweden or Iceland, but he was out of the country, so I sat in on drums, and that was a lot of fun playing with those guys. Oh yeah, and that show I think was the album release for CAC, which was the hip hop project, Brad and Eric, aka Pokeroba and Walkin' Fuss. And anyway, Rich played with tons of people. Morgan Grace, he was on drums, I was on bass. Ironic T-Shirt, which is another band that actually featured Brad on guitar and vocals. And more recently, Rich was playing live gigs actually with John Malloy and the Great Unknown. Many others, I'm sure I'm missing projects out there. Um, I have to mention also the countless evenings at Chopsticks in the boiler room, doing karaoke. Without fail, maybe after a few too many, Rich and I would attempt Africa by Toto. He always did the high falsetto. He always nailed it. And I mean, to Rich's credit, though, he did have 17 years. He was 16 or 17 years of sobriety from alcohol this year. He had quit smoking cigarettes years ago. He was determined. When he put his mind to something, there's not much on this earth that would get in his way from accomplishing it. When thinking about Rich, one thing that always makes me smile is when I'll be driving and I see one of those massive yellow sea lion caves stickers on the back of a car. I remember him and I going to the caves, and we went to the gift shop, and they had this, like, it was a gray lighthouse roach photograph holder, and it was good times. I'd like to now actually take a moment to talk about the not talked about enough genetic condition, Lynch syndrome. It's estimated 1 in 300 people have it, and it increases their chances of developing multiple types of cancer, anywhere from 22 to 78% more than those without it. And often, devastatingly, it can develop before the age of 50. Rich was 49 short years on this planet, but he lived it to the fullest every day. He loved his family, his father Rick, his aunts Mary Jacobson and MG, his uncle Randy Reece, his grandmother Joanne Reece Hilliard, his sisters Sarah, her husband Dacian, Mary, her husband Tom, Kara, as well as his cousin Jonathan. He leaves behind many extraordinarily talented nieces and nephews to whom he was so devoted. Margot, who we heard that beautiful song from, Jacob, Clara, William, Alex, Henry, Killian, Annalise, Finnegan, and Alice. Rich was preceded in death by his mother Carol and his sister Gina, who both also lost their battle with cancer. We are here to honor the memory, life, love, resolve, passion, and creativity of Rich, and also of Carol and Gina. Lastly, I want to mention books and authors. Drumming was arguably Rich's most prolific passion. To that point, I concede. On the morning of the 24th, when I received the news, almost without thinking, I asked my wife, Carly, if she would accompany me to Revival Drum Shop. In my grief and shock, all I could think was, I need to buy a cymbal to honor Rich. I thought about what Rich would have done had something happened to me. He probably would have asked Katie to accompany him to the drum shop so he could buy a cymbal in my honor. He was a true scholar of the craft of drumming, rhythm, and groove. He even tolerated my less than conventional taste in some like rock and like heavier like metal music. And Rich never judged, but you could always tell when he considered something good music, and metal wasn't it. Another memory I have is Rich used to write on the back of his cymbals, it just said, Rich Reece, I never sell gear, and then his phone number. However, I believe ending this tribute to Rich with books and authors is fitting. Rich loved all the greats, the Raymond Carvers, the Ken Keseys, the John Updikes of the world. Rich was influential in getting me into short stories. Sorry, the stand is bugging me. Another John Cheever. Here's a quote from Cheever after learning of the passing of his dear friend John Updike. Rich loved the Rabbit Run series, and I believe one of the books was titled Rabbit is Rich. Cheever said of Updike, "As for John, he was a man I so esteemed as a colleague and so loved as a friend that his loss is indescribable. He was a prince. I think it not difficult to kiss him goodbye. I can think of no other way of parting from him, although he would, in my case, have been embarrassed. As for Rich, I'm certain he would have settled for a hug, but the sentiments are the same. He was so loved as a friend, and his loss is indescribable." One of Cheever's most famous short stories that Rich and I talked about a lot was The Swimmer. This is an excerpt from that work. "It would storm, the stand of cumulus cloud, that city had risen and darkened. And while he sat there, he heard the percussiveness of thunder again. The de Havilland trainer was still circling overhead, and it seemed to Ned that he could almost hear the pilot laugh with pleasure in the afternoon. But when there was another peal of thunder, he took off for home." I want to thank everyone who knew and loved Rich. He loved you right back with all of his heart. He will be missed, and this world has less light in it without him. Having had the pleasure of knowing him for this short time made us the lucky few. In times of solitude, when you're alone, looking into the cosmos, be still and just listen closely. It may be that you too can almost hear him laughing in his single-engine prop trainer, doing those circles and again into the great beyond. I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that made it here today, for honoring Rich. Thank you to his family. Thank you, Katie. And just thank you to everyone who's been a part of his journey. Next up, we're going to have another music selection. Actually, Kara, if you're ready.
Come stop your crying, it will be alright. Just take my hand, hold it tight. I will protect you from all around you. I will be here, don't you cry. For I'm so small, you seem so strong. My arms will hold you, keep you safe and warm. This bond
So I've got a musical selection. You guys ready for another one? Okay. I was mainly asking the people playing, but I'm good to know we're all primed and ready. Why don't you guys come up and we'll do another one.
All I wanna do when I wake up in the morning is see your eyes, Rosanna, Rosanna. I never thought that a girl like you could ever care for me, Rosanna. All I wanna do in the middle of the evening is hold you tight, Rosanna, Rosanna. I didn't know you were looking for more than I could ever be. Not quite a year since you went away, Rosanna, yeah. Now she's gone and I have to say, meet you all the way, meet you all the way, Rosanna, yeah. Meet you all the way, meet you all the way, Rosanna, yeah. I can see your face still shining through the window on the other side, Rosanna, Rosanna. I didn't know that a girl like you could make me feel so bad, Rosanna. All I wanna tell you is you'll never ever have to compromise, Rosanna, Rosanna. I never thought that losing you could ever hurt so bad. Not quite a year since she went away, Rosanna, yeah. Now she's gone and I have to say, meet you all the way, meet you all the way, Rosanna, yeah. Meet you all the way, meet you all the way, Rosanna, Not quite a year since you went away, Rosanna, yeah. Now she's gone and I
your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hey, going round
Next, we'll hear from Jonathan Kleinow, Rich's cousin.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jonathan. I am the cousin. Yeah. Kara's right. I am the only first cousin to Richard and his sisters. Rich has always been not just an inspiration, but I've always held him in a sort of awe. He's just effortlessly cool in a way that I could only hope to be. Sorry, I had so many varying thoughts going through my head, and rather than write something down, I'm just going to speak extemporaneously, and you're all along for the ride. So we'll just do that. I spent about 3 weeks out here in the summer of '94. I think it was the summer of '94. Of course, he would know for certain. And I want to be clear when I say this, I'm not taking any credit for any inspiration. I don't know what the timeline was, but I remember when I was out here that summer, he was driving me somewhere. You know, they had 3 weeks to entertain their 10-year-old cousin. And so he was taking me somewhere, and he turned to me, and he asked if I had any thoughts on euthanasia, since it was in the news at the time. And being 10 years old, I wanted to sound like I knew what I was talking about, and I said something to the effect of, well, I'm sure that youth in Asia struggle with some of the same issues that youth in the US do, and I still remember, his laugh, and I knew, well, that wasn't right, but he didn't hold it against me. Over the last 10 years or so, I was really able to reconnect with him in a lot of ways, just by geographic distance. I was growing up in Cincinnati in Florida and college in St. Louis, so we would all see each other at trips to St. Louis for family or down to Bunker Hill and things like that. But I flew out here for a family reunion in 2016, which was actually right after I had gotten my pilot license kind of on a whim, and I'd been in communication with him, and he'd been a great inspiration and support to me in going through that. And it's just, I am coming out still this summer, bringing my oldest with me. I was out here last summer with my youngest, whose name is Reece, to take him out to the West Coast for the first time. And, Rich was just, you see how effortless he is with kids, young and old. And I remember when I came out here that one of those, 2016, 2017, I brought my headset, and I was hoping that, we could get up. And we looked at the weather, and he wasn't confident because it was one of those rare occasions when it was kind of overcast and rainy here, just one of those off days every once in a while. And he was, just didn't feel confident about it. And I mention that because it is a demonstration of how thoughtful he was and how carefully he considered things. All too often, unfortunately, pilots make poor decisions, and terrible consequences ensue. But and it would have been easy to give in to family. He'd canceled flights before when we would tried to go, just because he came down to Florida once and had gone up to Page Field to rent a plane, and it was just too sketchy for him. the aircraft and everything, and he said he remembered me being pretty disappointed. Again, I'm trusting his memory on that sort of thing. So, but he was very thoughtful and very deliberate and responsible, and I'll always treasure that from him. Just over the last 10 years, we got, I would say, as close as siblings, and shared so many passions: yacht rock and Steely Dan and Toto. He had the civic planning background and degree. I played a bunch of SimCity 2000 when I was growing up, so basically the same. So nothing about this feels just or is just. There's no rhyme or reason to why he's not here to hear us all celebrate him, but I'm so glad that I spent as much time as I was able to with him, and to know him so well and to have him be such an influence on my life. And one thing I wanted to address you, Katie, is I want to make sure that you know, and I'm sure people have said this, but that you know what a wonderful influence you were for him, and seeing you two together over the last 10 years that I saw you two together, you were a ground for him and a steady force, and I want you to know that, for better or worse, you are part of the Reece family now. Forever. You can't get out of it any more than I can. And we will all have to do what we can to celebrate his memory, and I'm glad to see so many people come out today, and I will always love him. Thank you.
So we are going to hear a song, Let It Be, performed by nieces Clara and Annalise Mundell, nephews Jacob, William, Alex, Henry, and then Uncle Randy. If you guys are ready, come on up.
let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. The night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine on till tomorrow, let it be. Wake up to the sound of music, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who, family and friends who were willing to play some live music. I know Rich would have loved it. So at this point, I just want to thank everyone for coming here today to honor Rich. We had originally tried to figure out how much time to put in the program for remembrances for people to talk about Rich, and realized we'd be here for another like 6 hours. So we're gonna wrap things up. Thank you so much for coming. We're gonna take about a 10-minute break, stretch your legs, grab a drink. We'll come back, and then if folks wanna get on the mic and share some stories, hang out for that. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good morning, friend. Here's your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster. Could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love in me
Hello, hello. Baby Billy Bible Bonkers. Hello. I want to just let folks know that we're going to go ahead and get started with the second act, which is giving people an opportunity to come up and just share some of their memories, some of their stories, some of their antics with Rich. And this may be bad timing. Is Brad within earshot? Brad. Okay, so he wanted to go first, so I'm going to go find him, and then we'll get going.
You ready? Where's Nate?
Yeah. Good question. Check, check. Nathan Jr. Nathan Jr. To the stage, please.
Natron.
Ryan, do you mind if I...
You know how I can tell? Because I heard the part that I was supposed to come back in on. You know what I mean? I didn't even have to think about it. I'm like, and I was like, yep, that's where it comes back. No, dude, he must have worked on that for a minute. All right.
You ready to bring it up?
Not that low. Not that low.
Shouldn't have eaten all that cured meat. My hands were just...
Sorry to interrupt your...
We're going to do an old song, an old euthanasia song that we wrote in 1993 about downtown Salem.
Oh, is that yours? Probably
And I wanted to give a shout out to Marcus Reynolds. He was an original member of Euthanasia as well, and he's here. And my brother is sitting in on drums in Rich's absence, and we're very happy to have him. And Rich would be too. Are we ready? Yeah. The song is called Birth. Walking down on Court Street, I saw Neon V. I stepped through a group of transients, much weirder than me. I passed up the rock shop, ranch and all the rest, because this store was supposedly the best. Nirvana, the Dead, what rock and roll should be. So get that goddamn hunk of Japanese heavy metal shit the hell away from me. He was talking to the Melvin, Sonic Youth, and Thurston Moore, and of all the hip cats who had journeyed through his store, the almost Neil Young, Todd Rundgren I adore. But the naked lady on the telly made me run straight for the door. Morrison, Hendrix, he hopes to meet them someday. And with all that he's been drinking, he's surely on his way. The Governor's Cup, the beanery, what downtown means to me. But the capitalists go to Starbucks for some corporate blasphemy. Sipping my espresso, rolling my own smokes. I looked across to see the bus guys take their totes. Football, solo flag, sometimes not enough. 'Cause when you ride on the chariot, you gotta be street tough. I met an asshole at Guitar Castle. He ignored me the whole time. I met an asshole at Guitar Castle, and his body reeked of wine. 2, 3, 4. For every generation, there's a store you should shop. If you're looking for hip denim, make the Gap your first stop. Go to Gary's Floor Shop, Thunder Jelly's place to be. Buy a pair of Doc Martens, get the t-shirt free. Pocket tees, Doc Martens, that's alternative to me. as long as I've got flannel. There's no place I can't be. Hanging in the alley between Ranch and Music West. I'm no fan of football, hacky sacks is still the best. Hell, I'm as athletic as anyone would want to be. Maybe I'll replace Dan Cortez hosting sports on MTV. Combat boots, hacky sacks. That's what alleys mean to me. But someday I'll be spokesman for the folks at Burger King. Your way, right away. Your way, right away. Nathan and I wrote most of the lyrics to that song, but Rich wrote one line, and it was, "The capitalists go to Starbucks for some corporate blasphemy." And you could tell, if I asked you to, yeah, you could figure it out. I'm going to stay up here and start the sharing portion. I have a few things I would love to say, but I have many things I would love to say about Rich. I met Rich in the 5th grade at Salem Heights Elementary, and I know we've got a few other alumni out here. Yeah, 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 yeah. And Sam can back me up on this. Rich showed up at school wearing an overcoat, slacks, wingtips, and carrying a briefcase, and he was 11 years old. And it was something I'll never forget. And I went through my stuff and I found my 6th grade yearbook. Apparently we made yearbooks, or like these autograph books. And I wanted to read you a couple of the signatures that I have in here. Mary said, "Brad, have a great summer." Jessica said, "Class of '94, stay cool, dude." Rich said, "Brad, have a great summer and take your typesetting and layout to the Janco Corp. Signed, the Ricker." I can think of a million reasons why I will never have another friend like Rich again. And I keep saying, like, I'll never have another friend like Rich again. None of us will ever have another friend like Rich. He was, we're all individuals, but he was maybe the most individual. I was aware that Rich and I maybe were ostensibly sort of an odd couple, but we had a lot in common. We both had alliterative names. We're both hilarious. We both have great taste in music. We both love books and writing. That was something that we really connected on, books and writing, probably after music. And music was something that we really connected on in euthanasia. I'll never forget being in the basement and making music with my friends. It was something I'm so glad I did, and something that we're still doing somehow. And it's great. And it's something that means so much to me, and having Rich be a part of that meant a lot. A couple other things Rich and I had in common was we both drank enough in our 20s to last us for the rest of our lives. And so we cut that out in our 30s and never looked back. And I think Joe was saying Rich hadn't had a drink in 17 years. I'm at 18-something years. And it was the best thing that we ever did. And we were proud of each other. It was something we didn't talk about a lot, but that meant a lot to us. And our lives got better because of that. And because of that, too, we also both had great women in our lives. I love my wife. Where's Katie? I want to say I love her, too. I can't say enough of just her and Rich were so great. And this last year, she was so great taking care of our guy. I forget the origin of Latrice. I forget the exact origin, but at some point somebody misheard Rich Reece and said, "Oh, is your friend Latrice coming over?" And so we called Rich Latrice for a long time. And then that morphed into Lattice, which I don't really know how that happened, except that Rich and I were like mildly obsessed with lattices for a while because of this book we had read. And then Lattice turned into Gladys. And then Gladys turned into Gladys the Groovy Mule, which was a Troy McClure movie, I think, from The Simpsons. But we called Rich the Lattice for a long time, and it's because it made a lot of sense. He was the lattice. He was the one that helped us all grow. And I feel lucky to have been his friend. I think that's all I want to say, but I just really appreciate you guys all being here for him. And the irony, of course, is that he would have loved this more than anybody. Megan, do you want to come up?
Rich delighted in reminding me how we met. A mutual friend told him he thought Rich and I would get along well because we were the most cynical people this friend had ever met. This story always made us laugh because I think we were like 15 and 17 when we met, the most cynical people. As it turns out, that friend was right, and Rich and I became fast friends. Our friendship grew and changed in the 30-plus years that followed. Some years we were very close, leaning on each other for various reasons. Some years we weren't in consistent contact, but always found moments to connect. We even had years of deliberately not spending time together. Besides the cynicism, Rich and I were into very different things in high school. He seemed, as you've heard, to be trapped in a 70-year-old probably person's body, but leading a teenager's life, trying to. He occasionally, as you heard, wore suits and carried a briefcase to school, for starters. He also loved talking about things that most of us didn't care about. He spoke passionately about economics and marketing, politics, and drummers and bands that I definitely was not interested in at that time. He also seemed to prefer hanging out with our parents. Something most of us avoided. We probably didn't seem to have much in common to the outside world, but we made each other laugh. And we challenged each other, and we always felt connected, no matter the kind of year we were having. For as long as I've known him, he always appreciated details. As you all know, he observed and retained massive amounts of information. It was impressive, but when we were younger, it could also be maddening. especially when he wanted to debate or when he remembered things that you really wished he would forget. As I grew older and wiser, I realized that most of the time, his detailed memories were incredibly beautiful and meaningful. Details that made one feel seen, heard, and loved. Details he could pull from his memory with ease because they were important to him. Everyone who knew him experienced an instance of his incredible memory. Rich could recall the album he listened to on repeat the week before he met you, the very specific type of chocolate you liked in 1997, the meal you shared together the night before your first child was born, something clever your dad once said, and the way the sky looked on a day you'd had a major disagreement. Those details about your interactions mattered to him because you mattered to him. Rich taught me a lot of things, like a lot of things. But by far the most important was how to lead a meaningful life, how to put effort into cultivating new friendships, and nurturing old ones, prioritizing shared experiences and acknowledging moments of meaning, beauty, and art that can be found in everyday life. For so many of us, Rich was a witness to and a recorder of our lives, a generous historian, especially as our own personal memories began to fade. I wish I would have told him how much he inspired me to pay attention to the details surrounding the meaningful moments in my life. I will never forget the sound of his voice, which never changed since the day I met him. I'll never forget what it felt to make him laugh on the day I met him, or the last time we spoke. In the last few years, our interactions were less focused on our shared disdain for things, and instead focused on celebrating and improving the quality of our lives. In fact, if someone were to have overheard our final discussion, they may even have mistaken us for optimists. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacob, and Richard, or Uncle Ricky, as I called him well into adulthood, is a contender for the most influential person in my life, for sure. Everything from like music to my favorite movies and novels, or even what career I ended up pursuing, and all trace back to him. I kind of wanted to highlight that with a funny story from about 10 years ago. The sandwich shop Jersey Mike's had just opened in Salem, Oregon, and he had picked me up from school early. I don't remember why. It was probably my parents and grandparents were busy, and he drove all the way down to do it, just the type of person he was. But I remember we were in there, and the radio came on, and I recognized the song. I was like, oh, I love this band. I've started listening to them because I found them on YouTube, and it was like Hotel California by the Eagles. And he hit me with the very trademark, I'm sure many of you have experienced it, thumbs down and a raspberry that I can't even like dare to reproduce because it'd be shameful. But I was astonished. I asked him why, and he's like, I've heard it 40 trillion times, and I hate the fucking Eagles, man. And I was 13 or 14 years old, so the Big Lebowski right over my head. And I wouldn't see it for another decade probably, but like that, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, music I heard on the radios was uncool, and music with like really talented session musicians and razor tight production, that's sick. And like still to this day, I continued getting into nerdier and nerdier stuff. I took him to a concert with Snarky Puppy, and he kind of scoffed and called it nerd music afterwards. But to this day, like Toto, Steely Dan, Frank Zappa is on my playlist all the time, and I still kind of hate the fucking Eagles, but I don't know. My biggest regret is that I didn't realize how much of an impact he had until he was gone, and deeply sorrowful. I never got to thank him for it. So I hope wherever he's at, he can hear it.
I know I was already up here, but I kind of forgot one. When I was 3 or 4, I'd always it continued till I was 7, 8, 9, 10. I'd always sit on his lap, or when I got older, I'd sit next to him and we'd watch plane crash compilations on YouTube. And yeah, and bridge collapse. And it was for my 7th or 8th birthday. He got me a book about the Sunshine Skyway collapsing. I still have it, and I still read it every now and then. So.
Hello, everybody. I'm another nephew of Uncle Ricky's, and I just wanted to share a short poem I wrote about him a few days ago, because I was struggling, kind of experiencing the full breadth of emotions that came with his passing, being so far away. But I don't know. One night, I wrote something that I wanted to share for everyone. It's titled Richard. A man of many teeth and conquered cigarette dreams, a pilot of the oceans who never got enough sleep. The words of a Caesar, the feet of a believer, couldn't fathom religious behavior. A Steely Dan was his one and only savior. His heart beat to a timer we could all play along to, and his voice echoed reminders that no one at all was below you. A lover of cats, a patron of wit, a sommelier of sound who loved to talk shit. Ricky was above me, above everyone I know. He always thought quickly, but when he spoke slow. It was his voice of reason that split the clouds at dawn. In this world of dying stars, he was the brightest sun. Thank you.
Planning on saying anything, but there's too many. I have way too many Rich stories, and I'm just standing there thinking, okay, what am I going to tell? Because majority of them are not appropriate for this setting. But if anyone wants to hear a good Rich story, hit me up after. I've got so many good ones. But I think this one is probably I've got 2 that are mildly appropriate that I haven't shared on Facebook or anywhere else. When we were in high school, we skipped school for the day and drove down to visit our friend Darren Yon in Eugene, who had an apartment. It was a big deal. And we took my car, and another friend of ours, Mark Reynolds, who left, was with us, and 2 gals, younger gals from Sprague, joined us for the day. And we got to Darren's, and of course there's nothing to do at the apartments, but he was able to get us alcohol. So it had a few beers. Rich did not drink, and thankfully he drove us back from Eugene to Salem. But we had to be back on time because one of the girls with us, if she was late for pickup, her parents were gonna ground her for life, and we're in the car, and Rich is driving, thank God, and he's totally sober, and he slows way down because he knew Eugene and he knew Springfield, and he literally says, "This is the spot. If we're gonna get a ticket, this is the spot." And she's screaming at him from the back seat that, I will pay the ticket, just go, I will pay the ticket, just go. And he's like, okay. So he kind of puts the hammer down. And sure enough, we get pulled over. And I'm in the passenger seat thinking, oh my God, I've had 3 or 4 beers, which was a lot for me as a high school kid. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, we're all going to jail. And the officer writes up the ticket for speeding. I barely remember the discussion, but I know just before he goes to hand, and Rich was smart. He only rolled the window down a little bit so you couldn't smell the alcohol, and just enough to hear the guy. And the officer could tell it was a group of kids in the car, and we were going way too fast. And he's written the ticket up, and he's just getting ready to tear into this huge lecture. And Rich, being paranoid too, because a bunch of drunks in the car, just cracked the window enough, just as the guy's going into his lecture. He grips the ticket out of his hand, says, "You go the speed, you pay the price." And then he rolls the window up, and we took off. We got out of there, and shockingly, he didn't come after us. And I have so many stories like that. I'm going to tell one more. This one may or may not be appropriate. Half of my favorite stories are from a trip we did in Mexico. And I have so many good stories from that trip. But one of them, of course, we had, you can drink at 18 in Mexico, and we're high school graduates, and we're with all our buddies. And we're on a boat going to, I don't even know, some kind of island or some part of Mexico you could only get to by boat from Mazatlan, and just to drink for the day and do whatever else they do on this thing we'd paid for. And it's, I don't know, 8 or 12 of us from high school, and a couple that I think was newly married but had a daughter from a previous marriage, and she was maybe 15 or maybe 16, and we're all 18. And we're riding out, and of course Rich loves to sit and talk with the adults. So he sat down right next to him, and we're all really hungover and not putting our best foot forward. And and Rich proceeds to tell them all about what we're doing in Mexico. And they asked, "Well, what did you guys do last night? Because you all look a little worse for wear." And Rich said, "Oh, we went to this bar, we went to this bar, we went to this one place where they were having a wet t-shirt contest, and there were these girls and all this, this and that and the other thing." And he said it was a whole bunch of female degradation. But I'm not gonna lie to you and say I didn't enjoy it. And then in the next breath, he's like, "So are you gonna let your daughter go on a trip like this?" And I remember we're all just like, oh my God. And I just have so many more stories. These are just off the top of my head. In fact, more are coming to me as we speak, but I'm gonna shut up before I embarrass myself and or anybody else. But he was a dear friend, and I love him dearly, and I miss him very much.
Thanks for being here. I don't have as many words as I do have some music. Real quick story though. I have a thing for drummers. I'm a bass player, and the connection between a bass player and a drummer can sometimes be really something. And that was definitely the case with me and Rich. I met Rich through Nathan. I was working at Guitar Center, and Nathan's playing caught my ear. I thought, wow, I gotta be in a band with this guy. So I cozied up to Nathan and I said, "Hey man, we gotta be in a band." And he says, "Yeah, I got this drummer. He's coming up from Salem. You're gonna love him." So Nathan bought 2 baritone guitars. And I'll never forget this. He came walking across the sales floor at Guitar Center with 2 baritones in his hand. And he goes, "This one's mine, this one's yours. We're gonna be in a band." And I thought, awesome. So we used to go over to Nate's house before our shift at Guitar Center, and we would, have a little coffee at Beulah Land. Some other things happened, and then we would play music in the morning before our shift at Guitar Center, and it was all improvised. We didn't have any songs. It was just the 3 of us trusting each other, because I knew that Nathan was such a force of nature on musically, and Rich, obviously, and we all just trusted each other, and it worked. It really worked. So we would improvise these jams, and they were incredible. And we've heard a lot today about Rich's heart and what a beautiful person he was, and I'm definitely on board with that. But can we just for a second talk about the pocket? Because, oh my God, there has never been and never will be another groove like that. And when he got going, you know, when he started to light them up, oh my God, it would elevate everything. And hand to God, I would not be the bass player I am without his drumming. So anyway, we completed this improvisational jam session, and it all kind of came together in this big crescendo, and he always knew how to end it, and we all just kind of ended together, and it was like, whoa, and there was magic floating in the air, little sparkly things, you know, and we're like, oh my God. So let's take a break. That was awesome. Let's take a break. Go out in the front yard of Nathan's house, and just out of nowhere, an earthquake. The ground beneath my feet started shaking, and my very first thought was like, what kind of sorcery is this? This guy, we had conjured the earth to move, and it was all because of the way that Rich played the drums, and more than that, he was a beautiful friend. So I've arranged this song by Morphine. Hopefully I can pull it off. This is a tribute to our friend. Last night I told a stranger all about you. They smiled patiently with disbelief. I always knew you would succeed no matter what you try. And I know you did it all in spite of me. Still I'm proud to have known you for the short time that I did. Proud to be step up on your way. Proud to be a part of your illustrious career. And I know you did it all in spite of me. Last night I saw you in my living room. It seemed so close, but yet so cold. For a long time I thought that you'd be coming back to me. Those kind of thoughts can be so cruel, so cruel. And I know you did it all in spite of me. In spite of me. Thank you.
My name is Eric Bush. I'm Brad Bush's little brother, as most of you know. if you couldn't tell. I'm just gonna ramble for a minute. I'm a big believer in you make your family, and I know like we're all born into one, and we have that, and that's great. But I've been blessed with also having another family, and a lot of that's through Brad. I was lucky enough that Brad made a core group of friends that have just been in my life since I was 12. And Rich was one of them. And, you know, Joe, Scotty, Nate, they're a big part of that as well. I've had, you know, honorary big brothers my whole life, which is wonderful. Daunting, because they're all really great at music. But Rich played a really monumental part in my life. When I was 12, I really, really wanted to be a drummer, and I wanted to buy a drum set. And Rich knew that and sold me my first drum set for, I think, $150. It was a Pearl 70s set that he had like rebuilt himself, and gave me the only music lesson I've ever had in my life. So he came over to my house, set up the drums for me, and the one music lesson I had was like, this is the hi-hat, and you go like this on it. This is the kick drum, you stomp on it. And this is a snare drum, and you keep time with it. And if you get all three of those to happen at once, then you're okay. And the other part of advice that he gave me, because I've heard everyone talking about how Rich has been an influence on them, and this always stuck with me. And it's always meant a lot to me. And this is in a time before people talked about things like mental health and depression and stuff. And Rich was always wiser beyond his years. And we had never really talked about anything heavy. I was 12, you know? And he set up the drums for me, showed me the stuff, and then I'll never forget, he said, look, he said, if you're ever having a day and you feel really down, he's like, if life is hard, he's like, you just get down, he said, you get behind the drum set, you lock in the groove, he's like, and you stay there until you feel better. And I've heard that like 100 times in my life as I've been doing the exact same things. That's advice I've used. And I would not have been a drummer without Rich. I wouldn't have made a lot of the friends that I've had in life without Rich. And I'm really gonna miss walking into a room and hearing, Eric Bush, what's happening? So, thank you.
Hey everybody. Hey, some of y'all know me. I'm John Vassallo. I went to high school with Rich. And I had a band, and Rich had a band with these guys, Euthanasia. And yeah, we set up some shows at our high school auditorium. And we set up a really awesome show at Rich's house. The Flannel Fest. I wore this flannel to commemorate it. Rockin' Dick Reece back there, yeah. Curated it. The cops came after my band played, Havoc Cow. We were too loud. We're too damn loud. Sorry, son, you're just too damn loud. And then, yeah, Euthanasia played, and shoot, Derek, your band played too, yeah. The Roasters, yes, yeah. But they played inside after we got told to turn it down. But yeah, Rich was, I mean, one of a kind. You've heard it all. It's all true, what everyone's been saying. It's kind of an amazing dude. And I work at the library, and I worked at the Kenton Library for years, right by Rich's house. So I was actually seeing him around again the last handful of years, and we had some great chats. And he got one of his, what do you call it? I'll quit my job because some friends in town thing. But he got a job being the bridge lifter for a little bit. Yeah. So briefly, we worked for the same company, the Multnomah County. But But yeah, Rich, he had a great sense of humor. He's so easy to talk to. Sometimes would be really direct, and that, yeah, sometimes that's a little challenging, but like pretty spot on with all his observations, and like, yeah, and is also, not afraid to be self-deprecating or anything either. There was this one show back in the day that y'all played the pep rally, and Rich had this, at the time, believe it or not, he had this like nice long hair, like grunge bob, down to about here, and somehow we had the great idea that we could make it mullet. Right before they were about to play this show in the high school cafeteria, so I grabbed some art scissors and let's do it, and we cut off like most of his hair except from the top down, like all the way down to like here, however long his grunge bob was, and it looked so amazing on him. It looked like suddenly he went from like kid in the band to like the music teacher look. And and they played the show and at the pep rally, and it was just looking at him, just laughing the entire time. And just like I was like, that's so cool. He was up for that, so cool. And y'all had a song called LBST at some point, yeah. Yeah, did you practice that one? Okay. But yeah, super shocked to, hear of his passing. Like, I saw that post the night before. I was like, oh no, like, that sounds bad. I hope he's gonna be okay. And yeah, just super shocked, but super glad I'd actually seen him in recent times and reconnected a little bit. And we were talking about doing a Flannel Fest too, but Sladham bailed, so we kind of didn't do it. You want to do another one? Yeah, let's do Flannel Fest 2. Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll bribe the Salem police. They seem more interested in teenage boys than should be normal, but yeah. Sounds good. Let's do it. Yeah, I think that's about all I have right now, but super fun to see everyone, and it's such a sad time. Like, what the hell? Like, can't believe it. And yeah, thanks to everyone for sharing everything. It's just been really cool to hear everybody's stories, and yeah. Well, this guy's gonna stay alive in our memories for the rest of our lives, for sure. So yeah. That's about all I have. Anybody else?
My name is Derek, friend of Rich's. Yeah, to piggyback on what John said, this does not feel real. I met Rich in 7th grade English class, and there were a couple things that stood out immediately. It was quickly clear that he was really, really smart. That was obvious from the get. And the other thing was his voice. There's not a lot of 7th graders that sound like TV news anchors. But I thought, okay, this guy is really smart. I really like his way of speaking. I should go talk to him, because I'll bet he's interesting. And man, oh man, was I right. From his eclectic sort of array of interests and areas of knowledge, I mean, people have covered it, but it's all over the map. And I think it's what made him, he was just such an incredible conversationalist. The night that I learned of his passing after this slap in the face of shock I had what I guess was a somewhat selfish thought, and it was, you mean I don't get to have another conversation with Rich? Because I knew the guy for over 35 years. We lived together for a year. We've been pretty close, and I've had thousands of conversations with Rich Reece. I never had a dull one. Never. I mean, there was always some tidbit, some kernel of wisdom, some funny aside. Failing all that, there'd be some solid Zappa trivia or something. But I think that what people have kind of alluded to is his memory and his ability to make these connections, which was otherworldly. Most of us have this sort of constellation of people and places we've encountered in our lives and events and so forth. And for most of us, it's kind of tough to pull that stuff up on demand. But Rich just had access to it. It was wild. And so you'd be in a conversation with him, and I'd say, who I ran into so-and-so, and he'd say, well, right, her ex-boyfriend used to work at this place, and his boss, you might know his son, he threw a party in 1996 in Eugene at the corner of High and 16th. It was incredible. I don't know, and he would go on those runs kind of consistently, and they were runs, they were virtuosic, and I've been kind of reflecting on that the past couple weeks, and whether or not he meant to have the effect that he did, for me anyway, it would kind of shrink the world in a comforting way. Just a reminder that we're not quite as disconnected as we think. There's only so many degrees of separation between any two people. I'm really sad, but I'm really, really grateful that I knew him for as long as I did, as well as I did. So rest in peace, Rich.
My name is Christine, and I met Rich through Ryan, Tiny Danza. And I remember 14 years ago I met Rich, and just seeing what a good friend that he was to Ryan. He was going through really tough stuff, and he was there for him, and Rich was a friend that was always there for you, whether it was a couch at the harbor or just visiting you, whatever, he would just be there. He was a good friend. So I baked a pie for Rich because I remember him coming over, and I was trying to be a good hostess, had treats, and he was like, oh, yeah, how delightful. So I baked him a pie and just told him thank you for being such a good friend. And that's when I think about Rich, is just a person who not only had knowledge of everything, but just an ideal friend who would always be there for you. I didn't know him very long, and me and Rich weren't super close, but I love Ryan, and I very much appreciate what he was to Ryan. And we also shared a birthday, something nobody has talked about is his frugality. And his birthday, he would go around and collect every single free thing that he could get. And we share the same birthday, so he's like, oh, did you go here and get this? And I'm like, no, but that's good to know. So, yeah, I'm really gonna miss, him asking me what free treats we got on our birthday, and I think we're all gonna miss him, and I'm glad that he was such a lovely friend, and yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Carly. I'm Joe Talik's wife. I've only known Rich for 10 years, which it seems like that's a really short amount of time compared to how everybody else has known him for 20 and 30. So in the short amount of time, I was so fortunate to get to know him and spend a lot of time with him and Katie. We saw the Barbie movie together, which will always stand out as something really special to me. He was our best man, and he officiated our wedding. And we hadn't read what he was going to say beforehand, so it was just kind of Rich, improvising. And at the end of it, he said, "By the power vested in me by the sea lion caves of Oregon." And I thought that was the most amazing thing I had ever heard, because I just got married by an ordained sea lions minister. So the one thing I wanted to say is, I was just talking to my mom and Joe's mom and sister about this. As we get older, friendships, we don't spend as much time as we should. Brad and Joy, we live like 5 minutes away from you guys, and we never see you. Joe and Rich had brunch at least once a month. They were constantly texting, kind of like teenage girls. Anytime he was like back and forth texting, I'm like, oh, it's probably Rich. But they made a point to have brunch. If it went more than a month, there was probably something wrong. Someone was out of town or someone was sick. But I think that that's a really special thing to have, especially for men. I don't think they make as much of a point, but yeah, so he was really, really, really special and really a big part of our life, and this was too soon. Thanks.
Hello, I am Nate, the Nate that has been mentioned. Onug. Some people call me Nathan Jr. I've known Rich, 33 years? Coming up on just over 33 years. I guess we would have been practicing for Holy Follies or something. Anyway, I was in the band with Brad and Joe and Rich and Scott and Mark Reynolds. Anyhow, I dearly, dearly loved Rich, and I've been thinking of him every day for 33 years, and that will never end until I end. He's kind of always been, and this is funny because, in his 20s, he was pretty when he was drinking, he, would make some questionable decisions. And I'll get to one of those in just a moment. But weirdly for me, he's always been like the good angel on my shoulder. Like when I'm trying to improve myself, when I'm trying to treat people better, treat myself better. Like Rich has had so many talks with me and helped me so many times to keep struggling, to keep fighting, to be better, and he really inspired me to do that. And he rescued me a number of times in life, like physically came to get me out of situations that I had put myself in or that others had put me in. One such situation occurred when I had moved to Central Oregon as a 21-year-old man to work for a friend's family business, and the house that I was living in while I was there kind of became like a hard drug hangout place, and I was not that kind of guy. Still am not that kind of guy. And I called Rich and told him what was happening at the house. We were checking in weekly, and on one of our weekly checkups, I was like, oh, these guys are staying up all night, and it's really weird, and there's lots of strange people coming over night and day. Like, the other, my housemate, he quit his job, and he's like, did he have a friend come to town? And I was like, no, and they all live here. They're all part of this circle that I didn't know about, and now I'm here. And he's like, well, guess what? I'm coming to town. You're going to quit your job, and I'm going to drive you to Eugene, and you'll just live on my couch until you figure it out. And so he picked me up in the silver Buick Limited, was it? No, that was the station wagon. We're talking 96, 97, the full-sized one. Wasn't it a Buick Limited? Oh, we're going to argue about this, Reece family. There's the big one that he had in Eugene when he was living up in the hills for a minute. Remember that sedan, four-door, red interior? Giant car. Rich was still in his giant car phase. Oh, man. So anyhow, Rich drives, his 8-mile-per-gallon vehicle over the pass to pick me up in Redmond, Oregon, and drives me back the same day. I was packed. I had quit my job because I knew he was coming to town. And he drove me back to Eugene. We dropped my stuff off. It was becoming nighttime, and he decided, I'm going to take you up to this place. We're going to clear these memories. We're going to create new memories tonight. And so we went up to the radio towers on this tall hill in Eugene, and we're just looking out over the city, and we're amongst the tall trees, and he's telling me what stations broadcast over the towers, how many watts they are, how far the signal travels, and how that's impacted by weather. And so, I'm still fully in PTSD mode, but starting to calm down with Rich. And he's like, okay, well, this is getting kind of boring. Let's go back into the city. Let's have a night. And I'm like, okay. And we hop in this car, and he's like, you wouldn't believe it, but this car corners really, really well. And I've driven this road a bunch of times, and I know I've had some wipeouts in the past, but I really understand this car and this road, so let's make some new memories. And he just gunned it, and we're flying down the hill in this multi-ton giant grandpa car, and I can hear the tires just squeaking with the turns and just on the verge of us sliding out, but he kept us on the road, and he kept me on the road, and I'll be forever grateful for him rescuing me and helping me be better, and I will love him very much for the rest of my days. One more funny story. And I was telling this story last night, and I think a lot of people missed this part of Rich's life. It was when he first moved to Portland, and he was ready to take any job, and he got a job at Sears at Lloyd Center in the appliance department. And he was selling appliances, which if you are a Zappa fan and you've heard Joe's Garage, you can just imagine what was running through Rich's mind talking about these appliances. But there wasn't a lot of business at the Lloyd Center Sears in the early 2000s. Not a lot of people were buying appliances there. There were other options, and Rich always liked to thank people, even though they have several options when buying appliances, for buying their appliances from Sears. But he was getting bored. There were no customers. He was in there, long shifts, 8-hour shifts, just by himself working in the appliance department. And he was telling me about it, and he was like, God, I need a new hobby. Like the boss caught me reading and said no more reading at work. He caught me sleeping, and he said no more sleeping, and so I needed to do something that's going to keep me awake that's not reading. And, no smartphones back then, right? We're talking 25 years ago, 24 years ago. So I suggest to Rich, because I'm a good friend, you're so rhythmic and you have so much rhythm and you love practicing drums. And he's like, they're not going to let me have a practice pad. And I'm like, I know, too obvious. Get yourself a pair of tap dancing shoes. And you can practice your foot rhythm while you're bored at your Sears job. So Rich literally went out and went to a place to buy tap shoes. Didn't just get on his phone and order them from Amazon. Drove himself in a Civic wagon, a silver Honda Civic wagon, down to the place where you buy tap shoes. I don't even know what that is. But he found it, bought himself some tap shoes, and went back into Sears with his tap shoes on. And he started calling himself and introducing himself. Very short time, maybe 3 months, because a friend was soon to come to town, and he would quit that job. But for a few months, he was Rich Reece. Hi, I'm Rich Reece, the tap dancing appliance salesman. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And so I just imagine Rich back there, tapping around the washers and dryers and tippity tap, tap, tap. And he would, do that when customers would show up. He told me about it. He was so full of joy talking about this because people would come to the appliance counter and be like, hey, we're interested in, some washers and dryers. Oh, let me show you where those are. Tick, tick, tick. And he'd walk them all the way across the huge warehouse, click, 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 with his tap shoes on. One day, Steve Malcolmus, the lead singer of Pavement, one of the hippest bands to ever exist, moves to Portland and needs to buy some appliances. And Steve Malcolmus goes to Sears and finds Rich Reece, the tap dancing appliance salesman, keeping Portland weird. But Rich knew that this guy was like the king of hip, and he was like, I can't be Rich, the tap dancing appliance salesman. I got to keep my cool and just treat him like a normal customer. And so Malcolmus walks up and yada, yada, yada. I'm looking for one of these. Rich is like, right this way. And he starts walking, and then the clicking is happening. The click, click, click of the taps on the floor. And Malcolmus is like, what is it? What's going on? What's that sound? And it was Rich Reece, the tap dancing appliance salesman from Sears, who I will miss forever. Love you, Rich Reece. I love all you guys that came out today. Thank you, everybody that's sharing memories. I know there's a queue forming, a very, very volatile queue, if they choose to be. Maybe some more of you will share memories. I hope so. I think we have some time left. Finnegan, man, that was an epic memory that you shared earlier. I remember that concussion. I heard a lot about that. But he never blamed it on you. Hand to God, dude. All he told me was that he was somewhere and he stood up suddenly and hit his head. And he had a concussion forever. Yeah. So just so you know, Finnegan, he never blamed you for that. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody.
I don't care if this is my second time. While we were down here for Killian's birthday, I was trying to show Uncle Ricky my favorite episode of The Simpsons. He's the one who got me hooked. After my mom crashed into a deer. No, she crashed into the deer. It's your fault. So, and he was trying to tell me how Terwilliger is a street in Portland, and I kept denying him. And then, what? Yes. And so, yeah.
Third time. It was my birthday back in November, and he came down from Portland, and he took me out to dinner. This place called BJ's, and afterwards he took me. We went back home, and you know, I just turned 13. I was playing Fortnite. Gave him the controller. He got a kill. So, yeah.
I'm remiss that I didn't spend more time with Rich over the last many years. But he was amazing on so many levels, and I'll just quickly blend this story together, and maybe it'll give you a sense. And hopefully for his dad, it gives him a sense of the man he raised. I'll start a little sad, but I had, in college, we had a a house fire where my roommate had passed in the fire. And one of the first people that came and spoke to me after this had happened was Rich. And it was pretty astounding. It was, at that age, 19, 20 years old, there was very few friends that could speak to you in a way that would make you feel a sense of peace and calm in a time of loss, and when everybody else is just maturing into themselves. And it had such a profound impact on me because it was just this time in life where I'd sort of questioned everything. I was saying this to Brad the other day via text. It's hard when you lose a best friend at any age, but definitely at an early age. But he really, really, really impacted me. And we had known each other in high school and in college, and he said after that, he's like, you should come live with me, and now it gets lighter. And so I move in with Rich. He's like, you have too much chaos in your life. You need to just come sit with me. We'll listen to music. And he had that house, whatever, and we moved in. And I remember right after we moved in, so the first lesson he taught me, sorry, I'm doing a terrible job, is if you have the ability to truly speak to people and bring peace into their lives and calm them down, which is so ironic based on the sheer intense level of anxiety that Rich felt every single second of every day, at least as he expressed it to me. I think that's an amazing gift. And I know that had to have come from his parents to have that ability. The second thing he had was a crazy skill to make almost anything really funny, but also be insanely cynical. So we were at his house, and my father was really big into multi-level marketing, and Rich was not. And so over the course of like the year I lived with Rich, my dad had signed up Rich into like 3 downlines of his. And so Rich would get shit in the mail, and he'd be like, Reece, what is this? I'm like, I think you're in my dad's downline. And so the very first one, I think it was called America Highway 96 or something. Anyway, Rich gets his box, and he's like, so what do I have to do? I'm like, nothing. My dad paid for you to join this MLM. You're probably 3 down the line, and you're just going to keep getting stuff every month, and my dad's going to pay your fees. He's like, okay, so he opens up the box. This is true story. And inside of it is laundry detergent, breath mints, and this weight loss spray. They were all from the company. And he turns to me and he goes, Reece, what the hell does your dad think about me? I was like, well, obviously that you smell and you need to lose some weight and you've got bad oral hygiene. And he's like, but he kept it funny. He kept it light because that would have been extremely offensive to most people. And then the third lesson, to keep it light and to bring joy and happiness and laughter to almost any situation. I think he's like sort of a comedic genius personally. And then the third was to really understand who your friends are and press them to, just like Nate was saying, to be a better version of themselves. He obviously saw me as either a total idiot or a semi-risk taker, because just a few months after that, he pulls me aside. He's like, hey, Reece, you know, let me get my pilot's license. I got it. Yeah. He's like, you want to go up with me? I was like, yeah, I totally want to go up with you, man. He's like, all right, we're going on Tuesday. So we go out to the Eugene airport, and we get out there, and he's like, all right, well, you know, no offense, but he's like, we need to smoke our last cigarettes because we can't smoke in the plane. And so we took care of that, and then we get in the plane, and we start to take off, and Rich is sweating so profusely. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, so dude, this is like a little 2-seater. And I'm like, we good? We good? And he's like, you know, you're my first person I've ever flown with. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you go with your instructor, then you do some solo flights, but then you can take a passenger. You're my first one. And I was like, dude, you should have told me that. And he's like, it'll be fine. But he is sweating so bad. And he's just like so focused, and I'm just like, and he turns to me at one point, truth, and he just goes, hey, Reece, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be fine. We're gonna land, it's gonna be fine. And he's like, I'm like, of all your friends that die, I will be the least important, so it's probably a good choice. And so we're coming in for the landing, and I swear, like, I don't really like feel fear back at that particular point in my life. But he's coming in, and I looked at him, and I just thought there's got to be some medical condition for the amount of water that is being released from this human's body. And he turns to me, and he goes, can you see the runway? And I'm like, because, you know, Rich was kind of short. And he's like, you're taller than me. Look over the edge of the wing. I'm like, yeah, dude, I see the runway. And he's like, okay, this is good. And I'm like, dude, he's like, I got to pitch up. And we landed close to the end of the runway, and we get out, and he's like, just really want to thank you, man, for coming on that flight with me. Couldn't have asked for a better co-pilot. And I'm like, dude, you suck. It was freaking terrible. So the 3 lessons, many of which we learned from Rich, is number 1, if you have a gift like the ability to calm those around you, even if you're suffering, that's amazing. And if 2, you can bring laughter and humor to the world, that's unbelievable. But 3, I think his greatest ability was probably to understand who he was around and how to make them feel special and to choose them in the right moments to be a part of his life. So I love Rich and to his father in particular. As a father myself, I can't imagine losing one of my children. And I know you've lost children, and I've lost your wife. And I'm sorry. And I hope that this, for a moment, gives you a sense of the son you raised and the impact he had. And my heart goes out to you. And you did a phenomenal job. So, God bless.
Hello, everyone. My name's Jeff Dodge, and my journey with Rich began around 2013 with well, we were doing a Badfinger tribute, and for a dear friend of ours, Scott Peterson, who was in the hospital, and Rich jumped on board with a bunch of sound guys, and we did this big thing at the Alberta Rose. Out of that situation, I had a band called the Peasant Revolution Band, and Rich and Steve were the best rhythm section amateur singer guitarist could ask for, because they made me look so good, and I'm going to miss them. Perhaps Steve wants to talk about the Pocket a little bit.
Well, yeah, I hadn't really heard about that before until the other bassman mentioned that. But the Pocket, I mean, there was, you know, I've known Rich for 10 years, I guess, you know, since we started the Badfinger tribute thing, and that, meanwhile, back at the ranch, was, you know, we found that Pocket in the Stones, Dead Flowers, which, you know, doesn't really,
we put a lot of covers.
Pocket involved in there, but it's,
you found one.
But such a groove and a beautiful drummer. He's like, you know, the Venus with arms, you know, just on that kit is just really
absolutely
something special.
Absolutely. And I just mostly, I'll try and cut it short, mostly want to let you all know this is on our YouTube channel, which we were coming up on 10 years in May of doing a monthly streamcast called the Peasant Revolution Band Variety Hour. And Rich was he was my Paul Schaefer as I attempted to do David Letterman. And we had a blast doing it. So just want to let you all know that there's tons of hours of him and his amazing wit and his amazing playing, and he's out there still, and I watch him every day, and it's a great reminder. So just want to let you all know that, and thank you so much, everyone, for sharing, and thank you, Katie, for putting this all together and being such an anchor for him. I know he loved you and appreciated that so much. So I guess before I start talking about the mayor, I'll say goodnight, Jeff. So.
Cheers. Thanks, Rich.